I'm going to share a story that's been haunting me for a while now. It all started when I thought my life was really going great. I'm Kyle, in my mid-30s, married to a woman named Jenna. We seemed like the perfect couple, successful, happy, and in love. I had just closed the biggest deal of my career while overseas for a work trip and felt on top of the world. But everything came crashing down when I discovered the ugly truth about my wife and my business partner, Mark. The signs were there if I had cared to look closely. Jenna had started acting differently, distant, preoccupied during our calls, and sneaking off to run errands more often than usual. Looking back, I realized that I was so wrapped up in my work and the excitement of the big deal that I dismissed these changes. I wanted to believe in the best, that everything was fine at home. I even brought her back a beautiful gift from my trip, thinking it would be a nice surprise. Little did I know, it would never get the chance to brighten her day. When I returned home, I was excited to connect with Jenna and celebrate my success together, but something felt off. She kept her phone close, a little too close, and wouldn't let me see the screen. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just her being cautious. But there was an awkwardness in the air that I couldn't shake, like a thick fog I couldn't see through. Then one night I came home early from the office, eager to surprise Jenna. I walked into our home office, where I found her and Mark in a compromising position. I don't even think I can describe the look on their faces. It was a mix of shock and guilt. I stood there frozen, my mind racing. The betrayal cut deep, sharper than any knife. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I couldn't find my voice. Instead, I turned on my heel and left, slamming the door behind me. I drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, my heart pounding in my chest. How could this happen? My mind flooded with memories of the good times we had, the love we shared, and the trust I thought we had built together. I couldn't believe that Jenna would betray me with Mark, someone I considered a close friend and business ally. When I finally returned home, Jenna was waiting for me. You'd think she would have been remorseful, begging for forgiveness, or at least acknowledging what had just happened. Instead, she was defensive, angry even. "You don't understand, Kyle," she yelled, as if I were the one in the wrong. "We need to talk this out. Talk things out." What did she mean? Talk about the betrayal, the life we built? I felt a wave of anger surge through me, but I kept it in check. I needed to know what she had to say. Through her tears and snippy remarks, she painted a picture of how Mark and I had grown distant, how she felt neglected while I chased deals and success. In her twisted logic, it seemed like she was justifying her actions. I can't even begin to describe the cocktail of emotions I was feeling: anger, betrayal, sadness, disbelief. It felt like my entire world had flipped upside down in a matter of minutes. I wanted to yell at her, to remind her of the vows we took, but I kept quiet. The air was thick with tension, and I didn't know how to navigate through this storm. As the night wore on, I wrestled with my thoughts. I felt like I was at a crossroads. My trust had been shattered, and I didn't know how to move forward. Part of me wanted to storm out, to end everything right there, but another part wanted to hear her out, to understand why this had happened. I felt lost, like I was drowning in a sea of confusion. Jenna continued her excuses, spinning them like a web around me, trying to ensnare me in guilt. I listened, but it only fueled my anger. It was clear she was focused on her feelings, oblivious to the wreckage she had caused in my life. Did she even care about the trust we had built? Or was it all just a facade? In that moment, I realized I had a decision to make. I could remain the victim, wallowing in her excuses, or I could take charge of my life. I wanted to regain control over my future. But first, I needed to confront the emotional impact of this betrayal. I knew I had to get through this pain, and I had to do it on my terms. That night after Jenna fell asleep, I sat in the dark, thinking about everything. I felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. I loved her, but could I ever trust her again? Could I work through this? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her dictate the terms of our relationship anymore. I sat there, lost in my thoughts, realizing things were about to change. The next morning, I would have to lay it all on the table. No more lies, no more deceit. I needed to decide what I wanted and how I was going to get there. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about taking my life back. I was done being the victim. The morning light filtered through the blinds, illuminating the remnants of the previous night's chaos. I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the weight of Jenna's betrayal still heavy on my chest. I could hear her moving around in the kitchen, the sound of clinking dishes echoing through the house, but I felt like I was in a different universe, one that was separated from the life I once knew. After a moment of hesitation, I got out of bed and made my way to the kitchen. Jenna was humming softly to herself, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I had no idea how she could act so normal as if nothing had happened. The anger bubbled beneath my surface, threatening to spill over. I took a deep breath, trying to temper the rage that was swirling around in my mind. "Good morning," Jenna said, turning to me with a smile that felt like a slap in the face. "Morning," I replied flatly, my tone more icy than I intended. I could see her smile falter slightly, but she quickly recovered. I poured myself a cup of coffee, my thoughts racing. I needed to confront her about what I had seen, but I also wanted to approach it strategically. I didn't want to lose my cool completely. I had been the one who fell apart last night. Now it was her turn to face the music. As I sipped my coffee, I watched her move around the kitchen, still playing the role of the loving wife. She had no idea that I was already formulating a plan, one that involved laying all her cards on the table. I was done with the deceit. I needed to see how deep this betrayal ran. "Jenna," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk about last night." She dropped the spoon she was holding. It clattered against the counter loudly, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. "What do you mean? I thought we had already talked about it," she said, her tone defensive. "No, we didn't. You gave me excuses," I shot back, the anger creeping back into my voice. "You didn't really address what happened. I walked in on you and Mark. You think we can just sweep that under the rug?" Her expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "Kyle, you don't understand. Things have been hard for both of us. I was lonely and Mark was there for me. It just happened. It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything," I echoed, my voice rising. "You had sex with my business partner in our home office. How could that not mean something?" Jenna crossed her arms, her demeanor shifting from contrition to indignation. "You're acting like I planned this out. You've been so focused on your career that you've ignored me. I just wanted to feel wanted again." "Do you really think that cheating is the solution?" I asked incredulously. "You could have talked to me, but instead you decided to sleep with the one person I trust the most." "Trust? You have no idea what it's like to feel invisible." She shot back, fire in her eyes. "I did what I felt I had to do. You can't just play the victim here, Kyle." We stood there in the kitchen, two people who had once loved each other, now glaring at each other as if we were enemies. The conversation spiraled out of control, and each new revelation only fueled more anger. The accusations flew back and forth, both of us refusing to back down, both of us wounded. After what felt like hours, I finally took a breath, my heart racing, and said, "This isn't going to work. We can't just keep going back and forth like this." "What do you mean?" Jenna asked, her voice softening slightly, but I could still hear the edge. "I mean, I need some space. I need to think about what I want, about what this all means for us," I said, my voice firmer now, determined not to let her guilt trip me into submission. Jenna's face fell, a look of realization dawning on her. "Are you really going to throw everything away? We can fix this, Kyle. We can make it work." "Can we?" I asked, my heart aching at the thought. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again. You've shattered everything we've built together." Her eyes filled with tears, but that only made me feel more resolute. This wasn't about her tears or her regrets. It was about my pain and my future. I needed to reclaim my life, but I also needed to figure out what that looked like. "I need to go," I finally said, turning away from her. "I'll be at my friend Jason's place for a few days. Just give me some time." I left the house without looking back, the door slamming behind me, echoing like a final punctuation mark on our chaotic conversation. I didn't care about the mess of emotions swirling inside me. I didn't care if she was crying or angry. I just needed to escape. Driving to Jason's apartment, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anxiety. I was free from Jenna's presence for the moment, but the reality of what had happened still loomed heavy over me. How did we get to this point? Could our marriage survive this kind of betrayal? Once I settled in at Jason's place, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. I leaned back against the couch and closed my eyes, trying to block out the memories of the morning's confrontation. Thoughts raced through my mind, my life, my business, my trust, and my love for Jenna. It was all in disarray, like a shattered glass scattered across the floor. As I sat there, I realized that I needed to prioritize myself. Whatever was going to happen next, I needed to put my needs first. I had been so focused on being a good husband and a successful partner that I had neglected my own emotional well-being. I knew the next steps wouldn't be easy, but I could keep living in the shadow of Jenna's choices. I needed to find my voice again, and more importantly, I needed to decide what I wanted moving forward. Would I fight for my marriage or would I walk away? The answers were still out of reach, but I was determined to find them. The next few days at Jason's place were a blur. I had hoped for clarity, for some sort of epiphany that would guide me through the wreckage of my life, but instead, I found myself wrestling with my thoughts. I spent hours on the couch, flipping through channels and pretending to care about what was on TV, but my mind kept drifting back to Jenna and Mark. The betrayal played in my mind like a broken record, each time amplifying the pain I felt. Jason was supportive, but he didn't pry. He knew I needed space to process everything, so he kept our conversations light, focusing on work and the latest sports news. But there were moments when I could see the concern etched on his face, moments when I could tell he wanted to ask what was going on in my head. On the fourth day, I decided it was time to face the music. I couldn't hide from the situation forever. I had to confront Jenna and figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. It was easier said than done, but I knew I couldn't live in limbo. I called her, my heart racing as the phone rang. Each ring felt like an eternity, and when she finally answered, I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "Kyle." "Hey, it's me," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Can we talk?" "Yeah, of course," she replied, but I could tell she was nervous. "When?" "Tonight," I said, feeling a mix of dread and determination. "At our place, I need to see you." "Okay," she said quietly, "I'll be there." As I hung up, a wave of anxiety washed over me. This was it. I was finally going to confront her about everything. I took a deep breath and tried to steady my racing heart. This conversation had been a long time coming, and I knew that the outcome could change everything. That evening, I returned home and sat on the couch, staring at the empty space beside me. The house felt eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of our last encounter. I was both terrified and relieved that Jenna would soon walk through that door. I needed to lay everything out and get to the heart of the matter. When she arrived, there was an awkward tension in the air, and I could feel the heaviness weighing down on both of us. She walked in, looking apprehensive, her eyes searching my face for some sign of forgiveness or understanding. But all I felt was a mix of anger and hurt. "Hey," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my expression neutral. "We need to talk." Jenna nodded, taking a seat across from me. I could see the nervousness in her posture as she clasped her hands together. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she started, but I cut her off. "Before you say anything, I need you to be honest with me. No more excuses, just the truth." She looked taken aback, but then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll try." I took a deep breath and plunged into the conversation. "Why did you do it? Why did you sleep with Mark?" Her eyes flicked down for a moment, and I could tell this wasn't easy for her. "I felt neglected, Kyle. You were so focused on work, and I needed someone. Mark was there, and I thought it was just a moment, something that didn't mean anything." "That doesn't justify your actions," I shot back, feeling the anger boiling inside me. "You didn't think about what that would do to me or our marriage. You just acted on impulse." "I know," she exclaimed, tears forming in her eyes. "I was stupid. I didn't think. It was a mistake, and now I regret it every single day." "Do you?" I asked, challenging her. "Do you really regret it, or are you just sorry that you got caught?" Her face fell, and for a moment I saw the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. "I'm sorry for hurting you, Kyle. I'm sorry for betraying your trust. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why didn't you talk to me?" I pressed. "You could have come to me. Told me you felt lonely, I would have listened. But instead you chose to betray me with my business partner." "Because I was scared," she admitted, her voice rising in desperation. I didn't know how to approach you. You were so successful and I felt like I was fading into the background. I thought you wouldn't care." I felt my heart twist at her words. It was painful to hear, but I also understood the sentiment. "But you know that's not true. I loved you, Jenna. I thought we were in this together. I thought we were a team." "We are. We can still be a team," she pleaded. "I want to fix this. I want to make it right." I took a moment to absorb her words. She was sincere. I could see that she was hurting, but could I trust her again? The thought of rebuilding our relationship felt daunting, like trying to piece together a shattered vase. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," I said quietly, my voice breaking. "Please, Kyle, give me a chance to prove that I can change. I'll do whatever it takes." Her desperation tugged at my heartstrings, but I couldn't ignore the fact that trust had been shattered. "What does that even look like?" I asked, my voice tinged with skepticism. "I'll go to therapy. We can go together if you're willing. I want to understand why I did this and how we can grow from it," she said, her eyes pleading. I considered her words carefully. Therapy could be a way to address the underlying issues, but it wouldn't fix everything overnight. "This isn't something that can be fixed with a few sessions," I replied. "It's going to take time, and I need to know you're committed to this." "I am, I promise," she insisted. "I love you, Kyle. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I just want us back." I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, but deep down there was a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could salvage this. But I needed to set boundaries to protect myself from future pain. "If we're going to try to make this work, you have to understand that it's going to take time and effort from both of us." "I can't just forget what happened," I said firmly. "I understand," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I really do. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm serious." As we sat in the silence that followed, I felt a glimmer of possibility. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe we could work through this together. I knew that I had a long journey ahead of me, but I also realized that healing could begin with open and honest communication. Together we could face the storm, but the real work would be up to us. I had to find the strength to forgive, and she had to earn back my trust. This was a crossroads, and I was determined to choose the path that led to healing, no matter how challenging it might be. In the weeks that followed our confrontation, things began to shift. I had made the decision to give Jenna another chance, and as much as I tried to remain hopeful, the process of rebuilding was fraught with challenges. We started going to couples therapy, a step that felt monumental yet terrifying. I was deeply skeptical about how talking to a stranger could heal the wounds between us, but I knew we needed guidance to navigate the complexities of our situation. The first session was awkward. We sat there in the therapist's office, facing each other, the weight of our shared betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Dr. Evans, our therapist, encouraged us to share our feelings openly, but the words felt stuck in my throat. I was afraid of showing too much vulnerability, afraid that it would only give Jenna more power to hurt me again. Jenna, on the other hand, was eager to talk. She explained her feelings of neglect and loneliness, how my intense focus on work had made her feel invisible. I listened, absorbing her words, but I couldn't shake the anger and betrayal that simmered just beneath the surface. I felt like I was stuck between wanting to understand her pain and wanting to scream that she had no right to justify her actions. As the sessions continued, I began to see some progress. Dr. Evans helped us express our feelings in a way that didn't devolve into blame. We each had the chance to share our sides and explore the deep-rooted issues in our relationship. I learned that Jenna had felt pressured to be perfect while I was out conquering the business world, and she had internalized a lot of those feelings instead of voicing them. But even as we made strides, there were moments when the past would creep up on me like a shadow. I'd catch myself staring at her as she cooked dinner or laughed at something on TV, and the memories of betrayal would flood back. I would feel anger bubbling up, often wanting to throw it at her, reminding her of what she had done. The truth was, I was still deeply hurt, and it felt like an uphill battle to reach a place of forgiveness. One evening, we returned from another therapy session, and I sensed an unspoken tension in the air. Jenna was unusually quiet, her brows furrowed as she stared at her phone. "Everything okay?" I asked, attempting to bridge the gap between us. She hesitated before answering, her voice shaky. "I just got a message from Mark," she said, her eyes darting away from mine. My heart sank. What did he want? Just checking in, she replied, her tone defensive. He said he's sorry for how things went down and that he misses working with us. Misses working with us, I echoed incredulously. How can he miss anything? He's the one who crossed the line. I know, she exclaimed, her voice rising in frustration. I don't know, it's complicated. Complicated, I repeated, feeling my anger boil over. What's complicated about it? He betrayed me and now he wants to just act like nothing happened. I don't think he's trying to act like nothing happened. He's trying to reach out as a friend, Jenna said, her cheeks flushing. He's trying to apologize. Do you really think that's what this is about? I asked, my voice dripping with skepticism. This is about him trying to ease his guilt. It's not about our marriage or your feelings. She opened her mouth to respond, but I could see that my words cut deep. I didn't want to push her away, but I was struggling to contain my emotions. The anger and pain were still raw, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that lingered. I think we need to set some boundaries, I finally said, my voice softer now. You can't keep talking to him, it's not healthy for us. Jenna looked taken aback. But he's still my friend, Kyle, I can't just cut him out of my life. Not after what he did, I countered, my voice rising again. You need to understand how this affects me. It's not just about you or him, it's about us. Her eyes welled with tears, and I felt a pang of guilt for pushing her. But my heart told me I was right. I needed to protect what was left of our marriage. I'm not saying you can't have friends, I added, trying to temper my anger. But this is different. You need to prioritize us right now. Fine, she said, her voice shaky. I'll stop talking to him, but it doesn't change the fact that this is hard for me too. I know, I replied, my heart aching at the thought of her pain. But we have to take it one step at a time. We can't let him pull us back into that mess. In the days that followed, Jenna cut off contact with Mark, a decision that brought a glimmer of relief, but also a new set of challenges. It was like we were navigating a tightrope, trying to balance between healing and the constant threat of falling back into old patterns. We both had to work hard to build trust again, and it was exhausting. Therapy sessions forced us to confront the underlying issues that had been simmering for years. We discussed communication, needs, and the importance of expressing ourselves honestly. I learned that I had also contributed to the distance in our marriage by burying myself in work, often neglecting the emotional connection we once shared. As we delved into our feelings, I started to recognize moments I had dismissed as trivial. The little things Jenna did that I had taken for granted, the times she tried to reach out for my attention, all started to come into focus. It became clear that our issues ran deeper than just the affair. It was a lack of communication, a failure to prioritize each other amidst the chaos of life. One night, after a particularly intense therapy session, I found myself lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Jenna was beside me, her breathing steady and peaceful, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I had agreed to give her another chance, but what if it wasn't enough? What if I was simply prolonging the inevitable? As I lay there, I realized I needed to confront my own fears. I had to reconcile the love I felt for Jenna with the hurt she had caused me. It was a battle, one that felt larger than both of us, but I was committed to trying. With every therapy session, I could feel the walls I had built around my heart beginning to crack. I started to let Jenna in, to share my fears and insecurities. It was terrifying to expose those vulnerable parts of myself, but I knew it was essential if we were going to heal together. It wouldn't be easy, and I was still haunted by the memories of her betrayal. But as I looked at Jenna sleeping next to me, I realized that I wanted to fight for us. I wanted to believe in a future where we could rebuild what had been lost. It was a long road ahead, but I was ready to take the first step toward healing together. As the weeks progressed into months, our therapy sessions became a lifeline. They were the safe space where we could unpack our emotions and navigate the complex landscape of our relationship. The process was painful, but it also brought moments of clarity and understanding that I had desperately needed. Jenna was making a genuine effort to change, and I could see the determination in her eyes during our sessions. She took responsibility for her actions and worked hard to express her feelings honestly. I watched as she gradually transformed, slowly shedding the defensive walls she had built around herself. It was refreshing and heartbreaking at the same time. One evening, we sat on the couch, the weight of silence hanging between us. Jenna had been particularly quiet lately, and I sensed that she was wrestling with something. "What's on your mind?" I asked, breaking the stillness. She looked up, her eyes glistening. "I've been thinking about how we got here," she said softly, "and I realized how much I took you for granted. I didn't appreciate you when I should have." I nodded, feeling a mixture of sadness and gratitude for her honesty. "I think we both made mistakes," I replied, choosing my words carefully. "I got so caught up in work that I didn't notice how unhappy you had become. I should have been more present." "I don't want to keep bringing up the past," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But it's hard to move forward when I think about what I did. I hate that I hurt you." "I hate it too," I confessed, my heart tightening. "But I've come to realize that we can't live in the shadow of the past forever. We have to find a way to rebuild, to create a future where we both feel valued." As we continued to talk, I felt a sense of hope beginning to blossom. We discussed our goals for the future, the kind of life we wanted to build together, and the steps we needed to take to create a stronger foundation. It was the first time in a long time that I felt the possibility of a renewed connection between us. However, the shadows of doubt still lurked around the corners of my mind. There were moments when the memories of her betrayal would bubble up, threatening to drown out the progress we had made. I found myself questioning if I could ever fully trust her again. One afternoon, I received a call from my business partner, Jason. We had been working on some projects together during my time apart from Jenna, and he wanted to catch up. "Hey man, how are you doing?" he asked, his voice friendly but concerned. "I'm getting there," I replied, trying to keep it vague. "Just working through some personal stuff." "I heard about what happened with Jenna and Mark," he said, his tone shifting to a more serious note. "If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here for you." I appreciated his offer, but I didn't want to dwell too much on the past. "Thanks, I appreciate it. We're trying to work through things." As we talked, I felt a sense of camaraderie, but also a twinge of unease. Jason had been in my life for years, and I valued his friendship. But his association with Mark brought forth a flood of emotions: confusion, anger, and betrayal. I knew he hadn't done anything wrong, but it was hard not to associate him with the pain I was still grappling with. Later that day, as I sat at home, I couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety. Jenna noticed my distraction and asked what was wrong. "Just work stuff," I said, but she wouldn't let it go. "You can tell me if something bothering you," she offered gently. I hesitated, feeling the weight of my thoughts. "It's just, I talked to Jason today. I know he's your friend too, and I'm struggling with that." Her expression shifted to concern. "I didn't even think about that. I can see how that would be hard. It's complicated." "It is," I said, feeling the tension rise in my chest. "It's just hard for me to be reminded of that part of our lives." "I understand," she replied, her voice softening. "But I want you to know that I'm committed to you. I'm trying to change, and I don't want to fall back into old patterns." "I know," I said, my heart aching. "But I need to see that commitment in action. I need to trust you again, and that takes time." "I'll do whatever it takes," she promised, leaning closer to me. In those moments of vulnerability, I felt the distance between us begin to close. But even as we navigated these emotions, I was still haunted by the specter of Mark. The thought of him lingered like a ghost, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still somehow a part of our lives, despite my attempts to distance myself from that reality. One day during our therapy session, Dr. Evans sensed the tension and encouraged us to confront the lingering issues around Mark. "Kyle, how does Mark's presence affect you even now?" I took a deep breath, feeling the emotions surge within me. "I hate that he's still in the picture. I can't help but feel resentful. He took something from me, from us." Jenna looked at me, her eyes filled with understanding. "I get that. I wish I could take it back. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can see how my actions have made everything harder." Dr. Evans nodded, guiding us through the conversation. "What would it take for you to feel secure in this relationship, knowing that Mark is a part of Kyle's work life?" I took a moment to think. "I need to know that you're not going to let him back into your life. If we're going to move forward, that's non-negotiable." Jenna nodded, her expression earnest. I promise I won't reach out to him again. I know he's a part of your work, but I'm willing to keep that distance. I want to focus on us. The conversation was difficult and uncomfortable, but it felt necessary. In those moments, I began to realize that we were both working toward a common goal, healing and rebuilding our relationship. The journey was far from over, but at least we were moving forward together, one step at a time. That evening, as we sat together on the couch, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. We had laid our cards on the table, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. It wouldn't happen overnight, but I could see the potential for us to rise from the ashes. I leaned toward her, taking her hand in mine. I know it's going to be a long road, but I want to try. I said softly. I want that too, she replied, her eyes shining with sincerity. I'll do everything I can to show you that I'm committed to us. As we sat there, holding hands and silently reaffirming our commitment, I realized that love was messy and complicated. It required hard work, authenticity, and most importantly, a willingness to forgive. I didn't know what the future held for us, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of purpose. We were in this together, and together we would redefine our path forward. Days turned into weeks, and as we continued our therapy sessions, I began to feel a sense of renewal in our relationship. Each session felt like a brick being laid down to rebuild the foundation we had once taken for granted. There were still hard moments, and I knew we would always carry the scars of Jenna's betrayal, but I also found a newfound strength in the vulnerability we shared. One evening, as we sat in the living room after dinner, Jenna looked thoughtful. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her voice uncertain. "Of course," I replied, intrigued by the seriousness in her tone. "Do you think we're going to be okay?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for reassurance. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "I think we have a chance," I said slowly, "but it's going to take work from both of us. We have to keep communicating and being honest with each other." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," she insisted, her expression earnest. "I don't want to lose you again." Her words resonated deeply with me. I saw the genuine determination in her eyes, and for the first time in a long time I felt a sense of hope. "I don't want to lose you either," I admitted, "but we need to be patient with each other. Trust takes time to rebuild." "I understand," she said, her voice steady. "I'll be patient, I promise." As we continued to work through our feelings, I noticed that we were beginning to find joy in the little things again. We started to spend more quality time together, rediscovering the hobbies and activities we had once enjoyed. We would go for long walks, cook together, and even binge-watch shows on the couch like we used to. One Saturday, we decided to take a weekend trip to a nearby cabin in the woods. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to escape our everyday lives and reconnect with each other away from the prying eyes of our usual environment. The drive was filled with laughter and light conversation, a welcome change from the tension we had both felt for so long. When we arrived at the cabin, I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders. The surrounding nature was breathtaking, and I found a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. Jenna and I spent our days hiking, cooking meals together, and even enjoying a beautiful sunset over the lake. One night, as we sat by the fire, I felt a warmth enveloping us that had been missing for far too long. The flames danced in front of us, crackling as we shared stories and reminisced about our early days together. "Do you remember our first camping trip?" Jenna asked, her eyes twinkling with nostalgia. "We had no idea what we were doing, and we ended up burning the spaghetti." I laughed, recalling the image of us sitting there, surrounded by smoke and laughter. "How could I forget? You were so mad at me for not checking the pot." "I think I was more mad at myself for letting you take charge of dinner," she teased, her smile infectious. As we laughed together, I felt a sense of normalcy returning to our lives. It was as if the burdens we had been carrying were finally starting to lift. In that moment, I realized that we were forging a new path for ourselves, a path built not only on love but also on understanding, patience, and resilience. Later that night, as we nestled under the stars, I took Jenna's hand in mine. "I know we've got a long way to go, but I feel good about us," I said softly. "I think we have a real chance to make this work." "I do too," she replied, her voice sincere. I've never wanted anything more than to show you that I can be the wife you deserve. I want to rebuild what we lost. I squeezed her hand, feeling a surge of warmth in my heart, and I want to show you that I can be the husband you need too. We're in this together. As we lay there gazing up at the stars, I felt a sense of hope blossoming inside me. It was a reminder that love can endure even the darkest of storms if both parties are willing to put in the effort. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but we were committed to walking it side by side. Returning from the trip, I resumed work feeling energized and optimistic. The old wounds were still there, but they were healing. I began to trust my instincts again, both in my business and in my personal life. I was more present, more engaged, and determined not to let the shadows of the past dictate my future. Deep down, I knew that life would throw challenges our way, but with Jenna by my side, I felt like we could face anything together. We still had moments where we stumbled, where the ghosts of the past tried to resurface, but through open communication and genuine effort, we learned to navigate those challenges with compassion and understanding. In the end, the experience had taught me invaluable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of never taking a partner for granted. I learned that true love isn't just about the good times. It's about fighting through the hard times together and emerging stronger on the other side. That's the essence of our story. It's a tale of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately redemption. We had fallen apart but chose to rise together, hand in hand, ready to face the world anew, knowing that love, when nurtured, can indeed conquer all.